We need food, water, energy, security, as well as barterability, wealth preservation, because if you're holding fiat money, wealth help you, community to help us get through this together, and shelter. These are all the things that we need to maintain a reasonable standard of living, and you need to get it done. You need to get it done as quickly as possible. And I know people fly to the perceived safety of many assets that really don't help you in a hyperinflationary event. Boomerang stock market spins wildly and ends up going nowhere. Have you ever looked at a bridge that swings and swings and swings? It's not supposed to swing like that wildly, and then it implodes. And I believe that is exactly what we are looking at right now. Largest market in the world, the interest rate, the bond market, which is way bigger than stocks, is in for a very bumpy road, just like the stock market is. We're taught that bonds are safer than stocks, but bonds are debt. They are debt instruments. And the world has been feasting on debt since 2008, and actually before that, but massively really since the crisis in 2008, when the Feds first dropped interest rates to zero and then started pumping all of this liquidity into the market. And the real point of all of this is that the Fed is reminding us that they are telling us that they are going to take the punch bowl away. Big question is, can they really take the punch bowl away? I mean, they're talking about March, right? And here we are. We've just started February. So the big question is, when will everything implode? When will these markets fail? I'm not saying that they won't make different choices like, I don't know, more QE, more balance sheet. And they're debating right now whether or not they should run off their balance sheet, which means sell the bonds that they have bought and the mortgage-backed securities, which would drive prices up. Remember, okay, interest rates, right? So if they sell, there's more on the market. That pushes interest rates up and the value down. Will they do that? Some think that's better, but it's never been tried before, so we don't really know. Nobody really knows the impact of actually selling these bonds from the Fed's balance sheet. Or will they raise rates, which will have a broader impact on the economy? I don't know. That's the debate that's raging, and it's going to be really interesting to see. Either way, they're talking about tightening. Central banks shift from crisis to support to fighting inflation that they create. I mean, they never say that this is the inflation that we create, but their job is to regulate the rate and speed of the inflation. But when you get down to the bottom line, which is where we are, we're at the end of this experiment. Well, the tools that they created for themselves do not work anymore. And so what have they been doing since 2008? They've been creating all sorts of new tools, but nobody really knows the unintended consequences of those tools. We're discovering them, and the Fed is discovering them, and they are between a rock and a hard place because we have this divergence on a global basis, which I will go into in more depth in another video, and we've talked about it too. In some countries, like emerging markets, they've been raising rates. In other countries, actually, when you look across the pond, you've got some key central banks that are like the Bank of England, the ECB, right, and the Fed, and the Bank of Japan, and the Bank of China. These are all key central banks that have been really bloating their balance sheets, trying to make everything look great. This growth in GDP, remember, inflation is in that growth in GDP. And inflation can frequently, on the Fed's book, mimic GDP. So now they have to unwind. Do they have to? No. Here's my personal opinion. I'm going to be right or I'm going to be wrong. Time is going to tell. But I don't think they can unwind these balance sheets. And between the G7s, so these actually what you're looking at here, Fed balance sheet, ECB, and the BOJ, but with the top 7 economies, they have 27 trillion, that's a T with a trillion, in new assets. And it's so hard for me to call that stuff assets, but fiat money assets, let me put it that way. So stocks and bonds that they've bought and put on their balance sheets. Can they sell them? Not if they want the markets to stay floating. And now the markets, whether it's the stock market or the bond market, is starting to strain underneath this and complain about what the Fed is doing. Can the central banks sell? Because when they do, well, that takes away liquidity and drives interest rates up and principal values down. Can they do that? Personally, I do not think so. But time will tell. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but hey, I could be. I'm just human. And I'm not privy to everything. I've just studied this on some level, since I was 10 years old. January's Treasury losses were brutal. Brutal, I say. But they may just be the start. Goldman's number 2 takes rear swing at Fed's autonomy and resolve. And this is really the big test. Because this is a con game, it is all about confidence. Do we have confidence? Do we believe that they can actually do what they say that they're going to do? Fed won't do what's needed if markets protest. We're going to see how far down these markets can go and how far the Fed can be pushed before they go back to QE, because I'm 100% certain that that's what's going to happen. They don't have anything other than this. This is all they have left. That's it. And they're saying that they're going to stop that, but they're not going to do it till March. Don't worry about it. We're good. We're good. We're not doing anything till March. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. They're trying to transmit this information so that those at the top would get out and reposition, and they are. They're repositioning into gold, into Rolexes, into, just heard a report this morning that something like they've tripled the amount of super yachts that the wealthy are buying. I don't know, how many super yachts do you need, right? So we know the insiders are selling, and what are they doing? They're buying gold, they're buying hard assets, like real stuff.